Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you've been here before, then you know what we're all about here. If you are new and you've just popped in on this episode, welcome. Let me introduce us. This is Tilly. She's in a mood, so please do excuse her. My name is Claire and I like to make things, and that's what this podcast is all about. Tilly is my old partner in crime, but unfortunately I made the mistake of removing the turkey from the freezer just before I started recording this, and it's currently in a bucket in the basement. That's where it's defrosting until he saw the whole thing, so she's now on a mission to try and find it again. So if she doesn't return for the rest of this episode, you know why. She's stalking the turkey downstairs, and there's a turkey out the freezer because it's the Christmas episode. Welcome. I'm not sure how long I'm going to keep these antlers on for, I'm not going to lie, because they're very jingly. Hopefully it's not driving you crazy too much, but yeah, I thought I'd go all out, festive. If you were here for my last episode, you'd know it was a Halloween episode, and I love Halloween and I love Christmas just as much. So welcome to the Christmas episode of the Flossy podcast, and I hope you enjoy it. Today we're just going to be chatting about making. As I said, if you are new here, I like to make things. That's what my podcast's all about. I also design knitwear under my Flossy name, so I talk about designing sometimes, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about it in this episode. And yeah, we talk about all things making, mainly knitting, but also sometimes there'll be a sewing in there, a bit of baking, whatever's going on really. We're just going to spend a little fun half hour just relaxing and talking about making things. So let's crack on. Before we get to some of the projects that I want to share with you, I do have a little bit of a Flossy update. If you're on my newsletter list, you'll know this already. Late last week, a few days ago I guess, I sent out a newsletter with a special gift in there. It's a new pattern that I just released and I created just for my newsletter subscribers. If you've been watching the podcast for a little while, then you'll probably already have seen it because I showed it ages ago and I've been kind of keeping hold of it. It's a hat pattern just for releasing for my newsletters. For my subscribers. And it's this one. This is Bough. I named it because it reminded me of tree branches, and especially for this time of year I thought it was a really nice pattern because it looks kind of Christmas tree-ish but without it being too seasonal a hat. And I was really excited to share it as a free gift for all my newsletter subscribers. It's also so it's the pattern you will get when you subscribe to the newsletter as well. So if you're not subscribed to my newsletter, you haven't missed out on getting this pattern, because as soon as you subscribe, you get it automatically into your inbox, and you can either download it as an individual pattern straight to your computer, or you can add it to your Ravelry library. So you have the two options there, however you prefer to store your patterns. And it's just a really sweet beanie. It takes less than 150-gram skein of 4-ply yarn, and which makes it really good. I guess we're probably pushing it a little bit for gift knitting now, unless you're giving gifts into the new year, or maybe you're just a way quicker knitter than me. I knit so slowly. But it's also a really nice, simple, if you want an easy pattern, like it's a pretty easy pattern, something kind of a quick knit for yourself, then do check it out. I'll leave the link below for sign up for my newsletter. I mean, if you sign up and then subscribe to get the pattern, I won't be mad either. So go check it out. This uses Merino Skirts Mend Dip 4-ply, and like I said, only one skein of yarn will do the trick for both sides of the hat. So yeah, that was the first part of my Flossy news, that I've got a brand new pattern out for my newsletter subscribers. The second piece is I've finally done something that I've been wanting to do for quite a while now. which is record tutorial videos. It's been something that I'd really like to offer people, so ideally I'm going to be working through my back catalogue to add more tutorial videos, but the thing I really like to do is if you buy one of my patterns, if there's like a slightly different technique in there or something, even not an advanced technique, just anything that I use in my patterns, that there's also a link to a video to show how you do that. So there's a whole plethora of videos on YouTube. So if you have one of my patterns and I don't have a video anyway, you can always Google and find a video. But I do find that I think different designers tend to maybe do things slightly differently. So if I say, so for example, Bao has these little bubbles just after you do the brim, and there are so many different ways to do bubbles, and I know bubbles can also be something that a lot of people don't particularly love. I love them, but there you go. I think it's nice to see exactly how the designer's done that kind of technique for the sample, especially if you see a sample and you think, if you heard that big sneeze, I have house guests, but I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, my parents are here, which is super fun. But more about that in a moment. But yeah, if you have, I just wanted to make sure that I had video tutorials of all the techniques I use in the patterns. So to start off, I have 3 tutorials up on my website and on YouTube now that support Bao. So I've done the alternative cable cast on, which is a cast on I use all the time. It's one of my favorites. It looks a little bit like a tubular cast on, but it's got way less steps and it's a lot more simple for executing. And I've also got one on twisted stitches, which is how this pattern's created. And I've also got one on simple bobbles, so exactly how I always do my bobbles, because this is helpful. These are all techniques that I use a lot, so I'm going to be able to go back and link those up in some of my older patterns too. So for example, Feather is another pattern that I use twisted stitches in, so I'll be linking it up with that. And my dotty hat, I use bobbles there, and if you look at that, you can see it's the exact same bobble that I use in Bao, but because the yarn's chunkier, you get a much more prominent bobble. So yeah, I just want to make sure that whenever you buy one of my patterns, I've said this from the beginning, that I'm all about the process of knitting. I love the final thing, like the finished object, I'm always excited about, but it's the process for me. So I want to make sure that if you buy one of my patterns, that the process of knitting it is as relaxing and fun as possible, and there's nothing worse than getting somewhere and getting stuck and trying a new technique and thinking, well, the sample doesn't really look like that, I don't know where I'm going wrong. From now on, you'll be able to knit one of my patterns, and if you're a little bit like, ooh, I'm not really sure what that means, go in and see a really clear video, hopefully they're clear, and you'll be able to knit it and enjoy the knitting process. So with that in mind, if you do check out my tutorials, I am new to making tutorials, so I'm very much open to any feedback you have. If you are knitting Bao and you're checking out the tutorials at the same time and you think, I'm not quite following this part, or I think Claire maybe could have explained this slightly better, or I've rushed anything, please do let me know. If you're watching on YouTube, just stick a comment below. If you're watching on my website, you can do the same thing. So yeah, I'm really excited about this, and it's something that I'll be exploring even more in the new year, and hopefully just keep honing those tutorial skills and making them clearer and more useful for you, and yeah, so I hope you really like it. So that's Bao. So that's my newest pattern. You can get it free now if you sign up to my newsletter. I send my newsletter out, well, I've not always been the best at sending my newsletter out in the past, but I have a whole new setup going on, so you'll probably get a newsletter around once a month, and then I'll email in between if there's anything like a pattern launch or anything exciting coming up that's time sensitive, so I want you to know about it a bit sooner, but I certainly won't be sending you tons of emails. So yeah, if you're interested in that at all, you'll find a link below for the sign up and all the details. So that is Bow. Super excited to have it out now, and I've been wearing it a lot in the garden with Tilly. So I've actually had quite a few things on my needles, off my needles, kind of stopping and starting, and I was trying to work out what was going to be best for this episode, and I thought, I don't want it to go on for too long. I really liked the Halloween episode, that it was a little shorter, and we just got to see some fun projects. So I decided to kind of keep it narrowed down instead of just showing you every single thing that could possibly be on my needles. I'm going to narrow it down to 2 more projects to share with you in this episode. One is something that I've been working on for some time and is finally off my needles, and I'm really excited to show you the finished object. And the other thing is a brand new cast on that I did. I cast it on a couple of days ago, and it's completely a whole new to me kind of thing. So let's start with the FO and we'll move on to the other thing next, because I finished my Watershed scarf. Ooh, look how pretty it is. I'm so happy with it. If you haven't seen this on, oh, look how pretty it is. If you've not seen me talk about this yet so far, I have shown it a few glimpses on the podcast in the past. This is the Watershed scarf. It's from Making Stories magazine, issue 5. Full disclosure, I work for Making Stories magazine. Why is that so hard to say? I say it like all the time. I work for Making Stories. They're a publishing company based in Berlin. So I got my copy of issue 5 for free, but there is never any pressure to knit something from there, or, you know, I choose to knit things that I genuinely love. And as soon as I saw this, I completely fell in love with it, which is kind of funny because I think scarves are something that why can't I do that? Scarves are something that I think you knit early on, and once I discovered sweater knitting, I kind of never looked back again. I just always wanted to knit sweaters or hats. I'm a big hat knitter. And scarves aren't something, even if I see one and I think, oh, well, that's pretty, I never really get the urge to knit it. The second I saw this one, there was something about the cables on the garter background, and I just completely fell in love with it. Q, the designer, is, how can I explain it? She's just a wizard with cables. Everything I see her design, I'm going to put all her details below, because she's one of those designers, every single thing that I see her make, I completely fall in love with. She has a way of working with cables and kind of merging different cables and playing with the background that's just beautiful. And I love her pattern writing, I love her designing, and I'm definitely check her out. If you like cables like me, you're gonna like her work. And look at the wrong side, let's not even call it that. The other side of it is just as pretty as the front. And that's something that she has a really keen eye for. It's just lovely. And most importantly, knitting it was super fun. Because it's a garter background, you never have that worrying thing of scarves rolling. It just was a pleasure to knit. It was really intuitive. So it's been one of those things that I've been knitting on and off all through summer. It's been one of those projects that if I've been knitting something more complicated or something that's taken more of my brain power, that I can just pop that down. And this has been like a big comfort knitting project where I can just pick it up again and start knitting it and just relax in front of the TV. And I'm super happy with how it's turned out. And I just know I'm going to be wearing this till the end of days because I love it so much. The yarn I use for this is Durham Natura Gillette. Butchering that, I know I am. A stunning yarn. I'll put the details below. I actually unravelled a lovely sweater that I knit, but was way too small for me. I really messed up on my gauge, and knit this instead, which I'm really happy about because it's beautiful yarn, and it was just sat in a sad squishy pile, not getting worn. And now I know I'm going to be wearing it every single day all through winter. And let's face it, when we've got the aircon running in summer and I'm chilly, I'll also be wearing it then. So this is my Watershed scarf. Definitely check it out. You can get it in Making Stories magazine issue 5, which has now sold out in print, but the digital version is still available, and there's probably some print versions knocking around with stockists. But also you can get this directly from Kieu. She's selling the individual pattern in multiple places, so do check it out if you're looking for a holiday project that's going to be super relaxing and results in this gorgeous thing. Then go check it out because you won't be sorry. It's also really easy to make it wider and longer. I actually made mine longer than it suggests in the pattern. But that's the only modifying that I did. Oh, one thing, because I love to tell you the weird things that I did wrong. I started knitting mine on 4mm needles, which is, if I remember rightly, a larger size than the pattern asked for, just because my yarn, it would have been better on that. I wanted a slightly more open gauge. I started on that. I don't know what happened. I finished on 3.5s, so somewhere along the way I swapped my needles, and I don't know how. It looked, I could tell before I blocked it, and I just gently, when it was wet, oh, excuse me, when it was wet, I just gently gave it a little bit of a stretch out. As I didn't pin it, I just laid it completely flat, and I gave it a little bit of a pull and eased it out a little bit, and now it looks absolutely great and it feels really soft. So yeah, that's a weird thing that I did. Oh, my antlers. So that is my Watershed scarf. Please do check it out. Q is also curious on Instagram. I'll put her handle down below for that too. And do go check out her designs and the Watershed scarf. Project number 2 that I put on my needles just a couple of days ago. This is a new beret pattern. It just got released. It was originally published in, oh, here we go again, Aramusu. I'm definitely saying that wrong and I apologise. I think it's Aramusu. I will put all the details below. A beautiful, beautiful Japanese knitting magazine. And this was a pattern that was originally in there by Sari Nordland, who is my go-to designer for berets. Sari's Biz pattern was what I used for my first Biz, and then also my pumpkin beret that I think I either showed on the Halloween episode or the episode before. And so when I saw she had a new beret pattern out, I was like, ooh, that would be fun. Especially because this is knit in 2-colour brioche, and I've never knit 2-colour brioche before. I'm always really late to all the trends, so if there's a trend going on, you will find me woefully behind the times because I've never been a very particularly trendy person. And I've also been a little bit nervous of it, if I'm honest, which might sound silly, but I'm not great with not combining colours, but I don't like things looking too stripy, which is the very nature of brioche knitting. So it's something I've kind of shied away from before, but I was feeling a little bit not stuck in a rut, and I don't think there's anything wrong at all with knowing what you like to knit and going for those projects all the time. I think that's absolutely fine. I do that myself all the time. But I was kind of feeling like I wanted to challenge myself a little bit more and learn a new technique and push myself out of my comfort zone a bit. and this definitely does that, especially because I'm using gorgeous yarn from the Sunday Fibre Company, which has speckles. Speckles terrify me. I never know where the colours are going to end up. I always worry it's going to be, because I do tend to like more simplistic, what am I trying to say? Like a more minimalist look to my knitting. Kind of single colours or only 2 colours. I mean, my fern and feather that I'm wearing today is, you know, this in other colours would, if you had like a variegation going on, which I've seen people knit and it looks beautiful, but for me it's just not very wearable. So I always worry a little bit when it comes to speckles. But when I saw this yarn, this is a Stardust colourway. I'm going to see that I'll just... It's a cream background, and this is a fluff. This is a non-superwash merino, and it's just got really soft pinks and yellows and blues going through it, and I just thought it looked really pretty. And the Vancouver-based, I think they're based in Vancouver. They're in BC. So it's a Canadian dye, and I've been wanting to try different Canadian yarn companies. So I really wanted to give the yarn a go. So I thought I'd push myself fully out my comfort zone and not only do 2 colour brioche. See if we'll get it. There we go. But also use a speckled yarn. So I'm wildly out of my comfort zone. But I'm having such a fun time knitting it. I'm having fun now. I'm not going to lie to you, it was really tricky. So you start at the beginning, and this was an invisible circular cast on. Again, not a cast on that I've ever done before. So several tutorials and recasting on later, I seem to get the hang of it. And then you do your setup on, eventually swapped to DPNs. I tried to do all this in Magic Loop to start off with, and it was a nightmare. I think I got going after took me a good 5 attempts to cast on and to get started with it. There was a lot of stopping and starting, I'll be completely honest. But once I kind of got on my DPNs and got a little ways out so I could see the pattern and understand how the stitches and the fabric worked, I've been really enjoying it. I have had to rip back a couple of times where I've made little mistakes, which I found it really hard to fix because I've never done this kind of the 2 colour brioche before. It was really tricky. If I made a mistake, I've been ripping back and going on rather than laddering down as I normally would. But that's okay. That's all part of learning a new technique. And like I've said before, I'm all about the process. So I'd rather do that and really get to grips with a new type of knitting than to fudge it. But yeah, I've done with the decreasing now. So I've finished decreasing and now I just have to knit straight until it measures a certain measurement, and I'm not sure where I go from that, so I'm just going to take it in stages. But it's been really fun to try something new, and I'm a great believer if you see a new technique that you want to try, a hat is a great project to learn that on, because I feel like a hat, you learn a lot by knitting hats, but in a short amount of time. So it's not a huge time commitment. It's not like you're trying something brand new on an entire sweater, but it's also a little bit more interesting than just swatching. And I think especially for this, because I learned how to increase properly, and especially with that new cast on, which was fantastic. Once I got a handle on that, that's a really nice cast on, because all you do, it like creates a loop. Once you've cast on, you just pull the loop nice and tight and it pulls the center in. So once I've finished, I'm going to pick up some stitches right here and knit a little, like, what do you call that? I'm going to do I-cord, like for a little stem, I guess. But yeah, so that is my Christmas holiday project so far, and I think I'm going to be done with it fairly quickly. I hope I'm not cursed that now. So in terms of projects for over the Christmas holidays, I haven't planned anything too much so far. I'm just going to kind of go with the flow a little bit. As I mentioned before, my parents are over for the holidays, which is really nice. We've actually been here for a few weeks now, so it's meant we've really been able to settle in and eat lots of good food, make some nice drinks. There's also been some crafting going on. Me and my mum put together a wreath, which I'm in love with. We did a little woodland themed wreath. And just decorating the house. We got the tree. There it is. And it's just been really nice to watch silly movies, put our feet up and catch up, because it had been 2 years since I'd seen them because of, well, you know why. So that is what my Christmas holiday is going to be looking like. I'm going to be relaxing and spending some quality time with my parents, which has been long overdue, and hopefully knitting some really fun things that I get to show you in 2022. I don't have any solid plans just yet for what I'm going to be doing with Flossy in the new year, but I'm really excited to have a little more time to be able to record this podcast and chat with you and hopefully make some really nice things. I'm going to wrap things up for this Christmas episode of Flossy. If you spent this time with me, thank you so much. I hope the bells didn't drive us all crazy. I guess I'll find out when I edit if it was a bad idea or not. But I wish you all really happy holidays if you celebrate this time of year, and if you don't, I hope you have a wonderful few weeks until I record again, and I'll be seeing you soon. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you. It's been a year now since I started the Flossy podcast, so I just want to say a big thank you for all your support, for keep coming back and watching my videos. It means so much to me and Tilly, though she's currently trying to find the turkey in the house. But she'll be back again properly in future episodes, and yeah, take care, stay safe, and love to you all. Okay, Merry Christmas. Bye.